Time now to move to the dispenser area, which most customers would refer to as the gas pump. When you check in the dispensers, you should first walk around them looking for significant fuel staining on the ground. This might indicate a leak. You can also smell for vapors to check for a leak. Next, check the dispenser hoses for wear, scuffs, flat spots, or cracking. Long hoses touching the ground might allow a vehicle to drive over it, resulting in flat spots or other damage. The only time you should have longer hoses is if you have retractable hoses, but even then, they should never touch the ground because vehicles could drive over them. After checking the hoses for wear, flat spots, and cracking, move to the nozzle. You might have different kinds of rubber boots on your nozzles, but regardless, be sure they aren't cracked, broken, or torn. For those locations with Stage 2, be sure to inspect hoses and nozzles daily, especially the rubber boots on the nozzles. Look for damage, which may cause vapor leaks. Hoses cannot be touching the pavement. Keep records of these inspections and any maintenance to your Stage 2 system. You also need to check the hold-open latch on the handle of the nozzle. These should never be removed. If you've been told that they can be removed, that is incorrect. It is an APHIS policy that if the latches are present when you receive the nozzles, then they should never be removed. Removing them could damage the nozzle. So again, when checking the nozzle, make sure there are no leaks around the connections of the nozzle, no visible damage, and that there is a functioning hold-open latch. If you have complaints about the hold-open latch, or if you have some overfills, like if a customer goes inside the store leaving the vehicle unattended, have your petroleum contractor come out and check the hold-open latch for any problems. Also, remind customers to stay with the vehicle while fueling. Decals on the dispenser will help emphasize this point. Near the top of the hose, on top of the dispenser, is what's called the breakaway. This is a stainless steel connector that is designed to break away or shear off if the driver accidentally leaves the nozzle in their tank when they drive away. Make sure there is a tight connection on the breakaway and that there is no dripping. If it drips a lot, you will see dust and dirt collecting in the drip area, so make sure it's in good condition with no leaks or damage. Also, in the dispenser area are signs and labels required by APHIS. So if you don't have the proper signs, you need to contact the sales directorate at headquarters to make sure you receive them. The dispensers should come with signs, but if you don't have what you need, again, just check with headquarters. Here are some examples of the proper signage. Now let's look at the dispenser sump. Remember, the tanks have a tank sump and the dispensers have a dispenser sump. The function of these is similar to the tank sumps, which is to collect fuel if you have leaking in the piping or filters. If you do, the sump is there to collect it. So as part of your weekly checklist, you need to remove the panels of your dispensers and check the dispenser sumps for fuel and water. Most of our newer dispensers will have sump sensors. These should be positioned vertically within a ½ inch from the bottom of the sump and in accordance with the manufacturer. They are connected to the leak detection system and will give an alarm if fuel or water comes in contact with the sensor. While you're evaluating this area, be sure to check the filters, piping, and connections for seeps and drips. If you find any, request that your petroleum contractor make any needed repairs. Here's a picture of a new dispenser sump showing the sump sensor. There are different types of sensors, but typically they are cylindrical in shape, 2 or 3 inches in diameter, about 1 foot long, with a wire attached to them. They hang down near the bottom of the sump. The dispenser shear valve is designed to prevent a major fuel leak or fire if a vehicle runs into a dispenser and knocks it over, damaging the piping underneath. When the piping is moved, it causes a spring-loaded valve to close automatically, which prevents any fuel from coming from the tank system into the dispenser area. Take a look at this photo. Do you see anything unusual? The shear valve was damaged during a new site installation, so the contractor wired a crescent wrench to hold the valve open, making proper operation of the valve questionable. If you ever see anything unusual at your site, don't hesitate to get someone out there to check it out and make any needed repairs. Also notify the installation and submit a work order if necessary. Also in your dispenser sump, just like your tank sump, Look at all the penetrations, all the piping and conduit coming into the sump from the outside. There should be sealing boots on all of those penetrations. Make sure these aren't cracked or leaking, which would allow water to seep in. If fuel leaks into this area, it could seep into the soil underneath the dispenser, so make sure you check all of the penetrations. When you look at the filters, check for any seeps or leaks. We've actually seen old filters laying at the bottom of the sump because the person who changed out the filters forgot to remove the old ones. Now, let's talk about the emergency shutoff switch. This switch needs to be in a clearly visible location and well labeled with the lettering large enough to read from the dispenser area. Typically, the emergency shutoff switch is located on the side of the building, as well as inside the building or kiosk and near the cash register so that an associate can activate it if needed. The signage outside needs to be large enough so that customers outside can recognize and locate the switch. At larger stations, it's a good idea to have a sign on the islands pointing to where the shutoff switch is located so that customers can easily find them. Also, make sure the emergency shutoff switch is easy to access, not hidden by a van or RV when they pull in next to the station. It needs to be accessible at all times. Here are two examples. One has the sign in a good location, but you can't read it from far away. The other one, you see the switch by the door, but there's no sign or label on it to tell people what it is. Let's quickly review what we've learned. Here's a look at your required outside inspections and their frequency. At the tank, start with the Stage 1 vapor recovery. Make sure there is a tight seal on the cap and dry brake and a gasket in good condition. Check for the same thing at the fill point and spill bucket. Is the cap in good condition with a tight seal? Check for fuel, water, and debris, and that the drain valve operates as it should. When checking your tank sumps, you may need assistance to lift off the heavy steel manhole covers. Sometimes the installation does the inspection, and sometimes APHIS is responsible for that. You may need to go to an FMO person out there or even get your petroleum contractor to help remove the heavy manhole covers. At the tank sumps, make sure they are clean with no fuel or water and that the sump sensors are located near the bottom of the sump. Check the piping for signs of leaks and check that the rubber boots on the penetrations are tight and not leaking. At the dispensers, you want to check hoses, nozzles, rubber boots, and breakaways for any leaks, cracks, and other damage. Also check the general condition of the dispenser itself. Be sure to locate the sump sensor and check for drips or leaking of the components under the dispenser. So what do you do if you find something, such as an alarm from your leak detection system? Check out the cause, but also notify the installation environmental office. You should then document the action, who you talk with, date, time of day, action taken, etc. If you see something related to the dispenser that needs repair, such as the hose, nozzle, breakaway, or sensors, call your pump service or petroleum service company for repairs. If you find sumps that contain fuel or water, again notify the installation environmental office and fill out a work order to have them come and clean them out and inspect them. If there is a significant amount of leaking fuel found, be sure and contact the fire department. Shut down the tank area and follow their instructions.